Hello, fellow builders, and welcome back to the Bench. Mediocre Modeler here, and we are ready to start. We're starting a new project, but it's actually the completion of an old project and the continuation of a cosplay. Wonderfest is fast approaching. Last year's cosplay was Moff Gideon. Although I think I did a good job on it, the one thing I didn't have that I really wanted to kick off this cosplay was the Darksaber. There were some issues with getting it mainly programmed. The 3D parts were simple, but the programming of the computer parts was a little bit beyond me. I've got all that sorted out, and now it's time for Moff Gideon to return, but this time with the Darksaber. Most people would just take the easy route and just buy a Darksaber from online. You know, they're out. It's not like they're not out there. There are 3D printed ones that you can make, some that will extend, and there are ones that are just fully, like Saber. One of the Saber builder companies already have one, but I can't do things that simply. So I like to make my life hard. After doing some research, I found a 3D print of the Darksaber on CG Trader. And it's only a few pieces, but here's the thing. I love the detail of this particular hilt. The other part of the equation is the blade. Now, I picked up a blade that was actually a replacement blade for the Walt Disney, I think it's the Walt Disney one. And so for the longest time, I had the blade, and I couldn't get it lit up. The way the lightsabers work, at the end of the lightsaber on a lot of these kits, it's flat, and then there's some contact rings. Looks kind of like a target, and this blade had the same. All the rest of the lightsaber blades are round. So you had like maybe a quarter size contact for the pins to hit. Well, the problem with the Darksaber is it's a sword shape. So you had a little bit more narrow contact patch to try and work with, that I had to try and work with. But the other part of it was, this is where the blade was supposed to attach to and come out of. Well, let me see if I can get that. I've already started working on it, but it was flat here. So these are two completely different things. So getting this to marry up with this was becoming an issue. Well, it was an issue. And that's even before I started with the electronics. This isn't actually my first foray into building a lightsaber. My first lightsaber is this guy. And what it consists of, the electronics are from the lightsaber toy. So it will, I don't have it. I don't have any batteries in it. Yeah, okay. PVC tube, which, that's what most people were doing back in the day. Polycarbonate tubing with a tip on it. And what lights it up are about 115 LEDs daisy chained together. And yes, I had to solder them all together. That was the easy part. Getting them inside this tube was the hard part, because I had to wrap it in some kind of diffusing material, which is just basically a thin packing wrap, and just getting it pulled all the way through was a nightmare. But the electronics was fairly simple. But this is all from a toy, and it was very big, and it's really all packed in here really tight. But it's not very reliable. In doing a DIY lightsaber search on the internet, I ran across this new piece. It's called the Adafruit Prop Maker Featherwing. Basically, it's part of the STEM stuff that you can get out there for kids to learn electronics. Now, the Prop Maker Wing is specifically designed for these kinds of builds. You can, because it's got a soundboard on it and everything, and it's only, my battery's not charged up, but it's only this big. So you got a speaker, and then you got the battery is charging, and it just hold on. That's awesome. And then if you add to that, let's do this, and this plugs in right here, and then look at that. Look at that. That's awesome. Now, it took a while to get here, and the problem for me was the programming. Some of this new, that kind of stuff, I just could not do. It took me a while. I didn't have the right data cable, and then getting the Python programming. Luckily, I have a son who's really good at that, and he helped me out with that. So once I got past that, and the other problem I was having is when I'm building stuff, I like to test fit things together before I move on to the gluing or soldering or whatever. And that was another factor that was causing me a problem, because I just had my boards sandwiched together. This is a Bluetooth board. You have to have both of them to work together, and I just had them press fit together, and it would work, but it wasn't consistent. But once I soldered it all together, everything started to work the way it's supposed to. So we have all the components, but now we got to fit them together. So since the electronics are pretty much sorted, we're going to start on the body piece. So with all the components, we need to get this guy married up with this guy inside of this guy. First things first. Let's give you a brief layout of what this is supposed to look like. So we got our saber tip. Okay, we got our blade, saber tip, head, separator plate, hilt, extended hilt, the wiring, and the actual board. And just so you get an idea of what we're working with, we'll just all right. So the first thing is to get this inside there. What's going to be in there is that, in the battery, in the speaker. And so the wiring has to go all this way. Just there's a lot of things going on here. The other concern is you've got all this weight at the end of this blade, and some of these pieces, the resin is really thin, so it's very end heavy, and this is a potential failure point. We're not going to be dueling with this. This is just a display piece, but I had to modify some of these pieces. So once I had to modify it for my sake, because this is what the original head looked like, all the purists are going to say, hey, well, then it's not the Darksaber, da 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 da. I got a story for that. I do. And maybe we'll work that out. But first things first, we got to get this inside here. And normally, this is how it goes. That goes on there like that. But I wanted to extend it so I could get the battery in, because that's what that end looks like, right? So we need to open that up like that so we can get this inside, this in there, like that. Let me get that done. Okay, got that out of the way. Now, the issue is getting the board inside here. There's plenty of clearance, and on the top and the bottom, the sides are very thin. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to get myself a channel, at least along the bottom edge of that, up to enough room to get the board and the battery in. The board and the battery. I think the battery will go this. Well, yeah, the board and the battery. I also plan on maybe finding a short tube, because this is for charging. I want to be able to have a short cable, because I won't be able to get back in here. I don't want to have to pull this thing all the way apart, you know? Okay, change that. Let's put the battery in and then the board, keeping that as close to this edge as possible, which also means I don't have to channel this out as deep. So I'll need to go down to here with my channel. And that way, if I can keep this close to this top edge, all I have to do is, I'm going to have this on the other end. I can pop that off, plug the charging cable on there, and we'll be good to go. I think I can take some material off the edges of these boards, at least off the one side, because there's that plug. There's a plug there. Okay. I can compensate for that plug head in the very tip of this. I can remove some of that material. That's not a big deal. But to be able to get it in there, we need to make a channel down the bottom. So that's what we're going to do next. That's what we're going to do next. About 2 inches. You might have noticed a little bit of hesitation in that last statement. That's what we're going to do next. A little bit better idea of what I was dealing with. So you've got the body of the hilt. You've got this hole right here, right? Looks like an avocado. Anyway, what I needed to do is put the board right down there, and it was catching, so I needed to just flatten that off just enough, and maybe some up here. Alright, just enough to get the board straight down there. Well, sounds easy enough. It was not, viewer. I'm gonna tell you. My biggest fears was the walls over here are very thin, right? So I need to make sure I stayed away from there. Plus, there was also already a box right there that was recessed, and I was going to try and put a hole right there and right there, and that would be where my screws would go, right? This is all in a little itty bitty spot, and things didn't go well. They just didn't. I ended up making a channel and test fitting it, and it kind of went well. And then I was trying to glue, there's an end piece that goes on top of that, so I put the board in and put that on the other piece on the back of it and tried to glue it so I could drill the holes, and then it was all glued together, so I had to try and take it apart. Then I had all this extra glue and material in there, so I had to go back in with my Dremel and try and get all the glue out. Well, I dang near blew through the side of the hilt. I just barely blew through it. So then, when you're doing that, you create a lot of that resin dust. So I decided, okay, so I'm going to take the resin dust, I'm going to sprinkle it back inside, put some glue in there, and then just run it down. But then that left all this schmutz in here, right? Which means I had to go back in with the Dremel and unschmutz it. But I got it. I eventually did get it. The one thing where I'm stuck now is, so, all right, I've got my board. The board is in here. All right. And I've got one hole. This one's good. This one's not so good. So what I did was I went in and with a piece of resin, I got a piece of resin to match that right there. So I've got that glued in. I'm going to run I need to get a screw in there to hold it from the back. I'm going to try and get a screw in on the side. To hold it on the side, and hopefully that'll be enough. This side is messed up. I can't get anything else in here on this side. That's what I got. That's what I got. So, but we're gonna make it work. We're gonna set aside the mounting of the end cap for the moment, because I just need a mental break. There's just no two ways about that. So what I did was gone in and got my extensions done. Everything needed an extension to be able to, so I can feed the wires in. There's enough room for me to be able to tuck everything in, because there was no way I was going to be able to plug everything in and get it all in there at the same time. So everything got extension wires. We're all good to go on that vein. But we can't put this off forever. So here's the end cap. What I've decided to try and use computer PC screws, computer board screws, because they're small thread, and I might actually be able to get this to work the way I want it to. The plan is this goes in, I need to drill a hole in this piece here, and then I'll have to put like a threaded insert there. That should hold it from there, and then on the back of it, this is my the one that I've got that's actually still all the way through. I need to lightly open that up, because I do have a screw long enough to make it all the way through there, and that would go to a PC board. Oh, it's a computer monitor. Monitor? Yeah. Like, the little threaded nut things that you use on PC connectors. So now I just have to find it, because I set it down, and I have to lightly make this hole a little bit bigger to be able to get that screw down in there. So I have to be very delicate. like that sound. So I'm very hesitant to do this, but I need to. This is a what is this? 9/64. I need to try and open this up to 9/64. So everything's just got to be. Yeah. Yep, see, it did chip out. I got a little chip. You know what? I'm going to save that. Because I might be able to glue that sucker back in. But, right now... Okay. So that's part of it. So, that's in there. So the threaded part needs to go in the end of the bottom of the hilt. So now let me locate that part. Why I thought this was going to be the simple part of the build, I don't know it. So for the next hour and a half, I fought and struggled to get the pieces that I wanted where I wanted them. Stand by. So, I got the computer thread in there straight. I got the screw cut down to size. I got the hole opened up big enough for that to fit. That chip, I did not glue the chip back in, so I had some more of this material. I glued that in over where this hole is and reinforced it and then sanded it down. So now I'm at the point of drilling the hole in this piece, putting a different threaded insert in there. I have the insert. I do not have a screw for that hole. So all the hardware stores are closed. I think that's a sign that I need to stop this. Sometimes you just gotta know when to walk away, and I think we've reached that point. I mean, this wasn't supposed to be a butt kicker of a build, but sometimes it is. I like to think that in my brain, everything else that falls at once, the hard part is once all the pieces have come together inside this hilt, that the painting part should be fairly easy. That'll go fairly quick. I haven't even talked about how I had to modify the hilt top for the activation button. But I promise we'll get into that first thing when we go to start assembling this. Yeah, now I'm gonna go find something fun to do. It's all fun. It's just when we're done, everything will be like, yay, wasn't that great? You know, it was the journey. Then, But until next time, have fun, be safe, go build something, and don't let it beat you. Go take a nap, go relax, have at it later. All right, that's what I'm gonna do. All right, talk to you later. Pew 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 pew.